My name is Vivian Lee. I was born in Canada, Toronto, and moved here 17 years ago. I'm the only one of my family stateside, and I just became an American citizen. I had spent more of my adult life here than I had been in Canada. So when I thought about that and saw my husband and kids go down one line at customs and me another whenever we flew out of the country and back, it struck me that it made sense to do it. It was a great learning experience because I'm a reporter and I love learning new things, and I had to study and went through a process that was fairly easy and simple because my case was pretty cut and dry. But it was emotional too, because I had never thought I would become American. I was born in 74. Wow. And Dad came in 71 or 72, and then they got married, wow. And then I was born like shortly after. So I've always felt truly grateful that he decided Canada first and called my mom over there. I feel that there was a greater willingness to welcome newcomers in Canada. We owned a Baskin Robbins ice cream store. So my father, after working for, I think, a meat packing company and for Electrolux vacuum cleaners, after going to accounting school, he decided to open up his own Baskin Robbins franchise. He had to go to LA for, I think, a couple of months to be trained. And then he bought his first franchise, actually the only franchise. It was a good 40-minute drive away from our house where we lived. It was magical to walk into that store for the first time after Dad set it up. He came out from behind the counter wearing the classic orange, pink, dark brown striped uniform. He had the ball cap with the polka dots in the same colors, the 31 embroidered on the front. And he said, "Look at all of this, this is yours." And I remember I was too short to even look over the edge to look down into the dipping cabinets to see all 31 flavors that were on display. But he said, "I know the one that you're gonna love." And he scooped me pralines and cream, ice cream, the classic Baskin Robbins flavor. I put it on a sugar cone, and that did it. It's every time I eat pralines and cream on a sugar cone or anything that tastes like it, I think of my dad. But it was a 7-day-a-week operation. The only days that he could close were Christmas Day, Boxing Day, and if he chose, New Year's Day. I don't think I understood how hard it was until maybe a few years later when I was in my teens, and my dad asked me to help out by wrapping cones in the logoed paper so that they were ready to go. You just had to pick it out instead of wrapping it there on the spot. It was already wrapped. Or stocking up the shelves with containers and lids and plastic bags and pink plastic spoons. And I remember thinking, Dad never made it to my speech competitions or my piano recitals. He never took me to swimming class. It was always Mom. And I think by about the 5th or 6th year, when going to the ice cream store was still a thing across North America, you got into your car and you went to go get dessert. It wasn't until I was in my teens that I realized what my dad represented to his neighborhood around the ice cream store. He was the man who had the store open late into the night to welcome after dinner guests, families who just wanted that time, but he could never spend that with his kids, with me and my brother. It was hard. That was really hard to see. It made it somewhat easier to then, in a lot of ways, I gave up almost every summer. I would go to summer school to earn extra credit, to graduate high school early so I could get to college early. But the nights were always spent at the store so that he could get a break, a nap, or go home and spend time with my brother, who was active in hockey camp, for example. So Dad got to drive him to rehearsals, to practice. But it was hard as a teenager to see kids in the parking lot enjoying their summer nights, eating the ice cream that I just sold them, and to know that I'm not going to get that. Like that, those days are slipping by. But, if my dad could work 7 days a week, almost all year, providing for us, then what were a few summers for me? There were years when my parents wondered what else they could do, but they stuck it out with that store for like more than 30 years. My dad sold the store to another family. To this day, I can't drive by that store. I can't drive by it. It held so much suffering for my family, but also so much gratitude. I will say that they did not see me becoming a TV journalist as the ideal profession for their child. They really did push me towards something more professionally licensed, law, medicine. But I remember saying to my folks, well, if you're not going to support me, I'm just going to take out a whole bunch of student loans, go off to college of my choice, because they were threatening things like, well, we're not going to pay for your education, thinking that that was going to stop me. And I think when they saw how serious I was, they realized that's what they had come to Canada for. My dad was the first one to point to an Asian face, a woman, on Canadian television and say, look what she's doing. She was delivering the news. She was storytelling somehow. She was looking directly at the camera and talking. My dad, I think he was really taken by this idea that I could be that active a member, that I could mirror people like him and my mom for another generation. And he said, you could do that. And I remember I had just won some speaking competitions. I was in 3rd or 4th grade. And that did it. The two, like my love of being in front of people and telling them something that I had just learned. I like the idea of a career in show and tell. And I remember telling each successive teacher in every grade that I moved on to, I'm going to be a journalist. I'm going to be a reporter. I'm going to do something where I'm telling stories, real stories. Yeah, I remember becoming a reporter for the first time when I was 18. Took a summer job in Halifax and told my dad and mom, I'm getting on a train from Toronto. It's a 24-hour ride. I've rented an apartment. I'm going to take this job. And it was stunning to them to think that I was willing to go that far away. And then they came to visit me about a month later. And it really, that's when I saw it for the first time, how they saw my chasing a journalism degree and going to journalism school and then taking on this summer job before I'd even graduated college. It really showed through on my parents' face. Well, it was an email from one of the board members, John Lim. He introduced himself. He introduced Korean American Story. He mentioned that the MC for the upcoming gala, this was 3 years ago, could not do it because of her work schedule. It turned out to be Juju Chang, who, was legendary to me before I even got here. And I thought, I'm being asked to play second fiddle to Juju Chang? Okay, I'll take it. And I arrived and encountered a very intimate gathering of what quickly became apparent to me to be a group of like-minded Korean Americans. By that time, I was more than 10 years here, and I had become more of a participant in Korean American organizations here in New York. And I was really touched by how everyone in the room was excited and committed about diversifying the idea of Korean Americanness. That what I had grown up with as the child, Canadian-born child of Korean immigrants, was not the only way to view myself. I think generally this idea that anyone would be interested in the Korean American story or a Korean American story is so novel still. But we have more than a century now, more than a foothold in American life. And it's worth celebrating and capturing and sharing. My name is Vivian Lee, and this is my Korean American story.